Blood drained from Judge Eleanor Harmon's face as the courtroom doors swung open, revealing a dead man walking. Rebecca Lawson's victim impact statement, a heart-wrenching account of losing her husband in Ukraine, died on her lips as murmurs erupted across the chamber. Standing in the doorway, beard unkempt and eyes hollow, was Marine Sergeant Michael Lawson himself, the man whose death certificate had been sitting on the evidence table for 3 days. "I object to these proceedings," Michael said, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "I am not dead. I was made to disappear." Rebecca's knees buckled. The stack of photographs she'd been holding, Michael in his dress uniform, Michael with their daughter at her 5th birthday, Michael's memorial service with its flag-draped empty coffin, scattered across the courtroom floor like fallen leaves. 2 years of grieving, of fighting the military bureaucracy, of building this wrongful death lawsuit against the Department of Defense, collapsed in an instant. Order. Judge Harmon's gavel cracked against wood, but the chaos had already ignited. Government attorneys huddled in frantic whispers. Court officers moved uncertainly between the presumed widow and her resurrected husband. Rebecca's attorney, Eliza Chen, grabbed her arm to steady her. "That's not possible," Rebecca whispered, her face ashen. "They showed me body cam footage. They gave me his dog tags. They lied," Michael said, stepping fully into the courtroom. His gaze locked with Rebecca's across 15 feet of polished floor that might as well have been an ocean. "And I'm here to tell you why." 48 hours earlier, Rebecca had sat in Eliza's office rehearsing her testimony for the 3rd day of trial. Coffee cups and takeout containers littered the conference table, evidence of their round-the-clock preparation. "The government's defense is shifting," Eliza explained, organizing her notes. "They're now suggesting Michael violated orders by joining the Ukrainian forces at Azovstal. If they can prove he was acting outside his official capacity—" "That's bullshit," Rebecca interrupted, the professional facade she maintained for her daughter's sake cracking slightly. At 34, she looked a decade older than she had before Michael's deployment. "He was following direct orders. He had written confirmation." "Which mysteriously disappeared from his file," Eliza reminded her. "Along with records of the other 4 men in his special operations unit." Rebecca stared down at her hands at the wedding ring she still wore. "Someone's covering something up. Michael wouldn't have gone rogue." "I believe you," Eliza said, her tone softening, "but the jury needs more than belief. That's why tomorrow's witness is crucial. Colonel Reeves was Michael's commanding officer. If he confirms Michael was operating under official orders when he was killed in the Azovstal steel plant, then the government is liable," Rebecca finished, "and they owe my daughter her father's benefits." She didn't mention the $2.7 million wrongful death claim. This had never been about money. It was about truth, about honor, about clearing Michael's
name from accusations of being a mercenary who had died throwing away his life for someone else's war. Eliza gathered her papers.
"Get some rest. Tomorrow will be intense." Rebecca nodded, but rest had been elusive since the April morning when 2 officers had appeared on her doorstep, faces grim, manila envelope in hand. "We regret to inform you, what followed was a nightmare of contradictions." The official story: Sergeant Michael Lawson, part of a classified advisory mission to Ukrainian forces, had been killed during the Russian siege of the Azovstal steel plant in Mariupol. His body could not be recovered due to the intensity of the fighting, yet when Rebecca pushed for details, the stories changed. Documents disappeared. Michael's commanding officers became unreachable. Fellow soldiers gave conflicting accounts. When she finally obtained Michael's service records through a Freedom of Information Act request, entire sections were redacted, including the authorization for his final mission. That's when she'd hired Eliza and filed suit. As Rebecca left the office building, her phone rang. Her neighbor, who was watching 7-year-old Emma. "Everything okay?" Rebecca answered, instantly alert. Fine, the neighbor assured her. "Emma's asleep, but there was something strange. A man was watching your house earlier. When I went out to check, he left. Military-looking type." Rebecca's pulse quickened. "Did you call the police?" "They did a drive-by, but he was gone." Probably nothing. Thanks, Jean. I'll be home soon. Rebecca hung up, suddenly aware of the darkened parking garage around her. Was that footsteps behind her? She quickened her pace, fumbling for her keys. The sensation of being watched prickled along her spine. Her car beeped as she unlocked it, the sound echoing between concrete pillars. As she reached for the door handle, a reflection in the window stopped her. Someone standing behind her. Rebecca whirled, keys clutched between her fingers as a weapon. "Mrs. Lawson," the man said, raising his hand slightly. "I'm not here to hurt you." He was maybe 40, with a military haircut and the hard eyes of someone who had seen combat. No uniform, just jeans and a windbreaker. "Who are you?" Rebecca demanded, one hand reaching for her phone. "Someone who served with your husband." He glanced around nervously. "I don't have much time. They're watching you. Watching all of us." "Who is?" "The ones who profit from dead soldiers." He thrust an envelope toward her. "Michael wasn't the only one. There are others, listed as KIA, but actually—" A car engine started nearby, headlights sweeping across the garage. "I've said too much," the man muttered. "Take this. If anything happens to me, the truth is in there. Michael would want you to know." He melted into the shadows before Rebecca could respond, leaving her clutching the envelope, heart pounding against her ribs. By the time she gathered herself enough to look inside, the garage was empty. The envelope contained a single photograph. 5 men in combat gear, arms around each other's shoulders, standing before a concrete wall marked with Cyrillic graffiti. Michael was on the far right. Someone had circled 3 of the 5 men, including Michael, with red marker. Scrawled on the back, all 3 confirmed KIA within 6 months. All 3 spotted alive after death. Follow the money. Rebecca's hand trembled. The photo was dated 2 weeks before Michael's reported death. In the courtroom the next morning, Rebecca couldn't focus on Colonel James Reeves's testimony. The photograph burned in her purse like a live coal. The man's warnings echoed in her mind. "They're watching you." Colonel Reeves, the government attorney, was saying, "Was Sergeant Lawson officially deployed to Ukraine as part of a sanctioned U.S. military operation?" The colonel shifted uncomfortably. Sergeant Lawson was part of a special advisory unit. The specific parameters of their mission remained classified. But was he at the Azovstal steel plant under direct orders? Yes or no? A pause. "I cannot confirm the exact location of—" "Your Honor," Eliza interrupted. "The witness is being evasive. We've established that the court has the necessary security clearances for this testimony." Judge Harmon nodded. "Please answer the question, Colonel." Reeves straightened his uniform jacket. "No, Sergeant Lawson was not ordered to enter the Azovstal facility. If he was there when the Russian forces overtook the position, he was acting outside his authorized parameters." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Rebecca felt the floor tilt beneath her. This contradicted everything Michael had told her before his deployment. He'd specifically mentioned being sent to help Ukrainian forces protect civilians sheltering in the plant's vast underground bunkers. As Eliza began her cross-examination, Rebecca's phone vibrated. Unknown number. She ignored it, then it buzzed, again with a text, "Don't trust Reeves. He's compromised. Check the SpotEC program. 24 mailers, unaccounted for." Rebecca stared at the message, then at Colonel Reeves on the stand. His testimony continued, each word driving another nail into Michael's legacy, painting him as a rogue operator who had violated orders and gotten himself killed. During the lunch recess, Rebecca showed Eliza the photograph and the text. "This is highly irregular," the attorney said, examining the image. "Where did you get this?" Rebecca explained the garage encounter. "This could be someone trying to manipulate you," Eliza warned, "or worse, trying to derail our case with conspiracy theories." "But what if it's true? What if Michael isn't—" Rebecca couldn't finish the sentence. Hope was too dangerous after 2 years of grief. "Let me do some digging on this SpotEC program," Eliza said. "But Rebecca, please be careful. Don't contact this person again without telling me." That night, after putting Emma to bed, Rebecca sat at her kitchen table with Michael's laptop. She'd kept it charged, occasionally scrolling through. His old emails and photos when missing him became unbearable. Now she was looking for something specific. Michael had mentioned SPOTC once, Special Personnel Operations and Training Command, a program so classified he'd only referenced it in passing. If there was something there, something connecting to his death. She tried various password combinations until one worked. Emma's birth date plus the coordinates of where they'd first met. The files were encrypted, but a folder labeled Insurance caught her attention. Inside was a video file dated 3 days before his reported death. Michael's face filled the screen, his expression grave. He recorded from what looked like a bunker, the sound of distant explosions punctuating his words. "Beck, if you're watching this, something's gone wrong. I'm at Azovstal with the team. Official story is we're advising Ukrainian forces, but that's cover. We're actually tracking weapons shipments. Someone high up is diverting arms and aid money, millions of dollars worth. Reeves knows. Maybe he's involved, maybe just following orders." A closer explosion made the camera shake. "Things are bad here, Russians have us surrounded, but Beck, listen. If anything happens to me, don't believe the official story. They've been using KIA designations to make people disappear. Soldiers, who know too much, see too much. I've documented everything on the encrypted drive Jimenez has. Trust no one from the unit except Martinez. The video cut off abruptly. Rebecca sat frozen, the implications washing over her like ice water. If Michael had discovered corruption involving military aid to Ukraine, billions of dollars flowing with minimal oversight, how far would someone go to silence him? Her phone rang, startling her. Unknown number again. "Hello?" She answered cautiously. "Mrs. Lawson." A different voice from the garage man. "You need to drop the lawsuit for your daughter's sake." The line went dead before she could respond. Rebecca's hand shook as she called Eliza, who answered on the first ring. "I was just about to call you," the attorney said. "I found something on SPOTC. It's a black budget program handling specialized personnel deployments to Ukraine. And you're right. There are financial irregularities, millions unaccounted for." "Michael left a video," Rebecca said, her voice unsteady. "He was investigating weapons shipments being diverted. He thought Reeves might be involved." A long silence. "This changes everything," Eliza finally said. "But Rebecca, if what you're suggesting is true, if Michael uncovered high-level corruption and they faked his death to silence him, these are powerful people. People who can make problems disappear." "They just threatened Emma," Rebecca said. "I'm done hiding. We're bringing this to court tomorrow." The third day of trial began with Colonel Reeves returning to the stand for continued cross-examination. Rebecca had given Eliza the video file and they'd stayed up half the night preparing their strategy. The courtroom was tense, the government attorneys unusually agitated. "Colonel Reeves," Eliza began, "are you familiar with the special personnel? Operations and Training Command, codenamed SPOTC?" Reeves blinked. "That's a classified program, Counsel." "Yes, with a budget of $87 million for operations in Ukraine last year, yet only $63 million is accounted for in the classified records we've been provided. Can you explain the discrepancy?" "I'm not the financial officer for—" "No, but as the commanding officer of the unit that included Sergeant Lawson, you signed off on equipment transfers worth $24 million that never reached their Ukrainian destinations. Isn't that correct?" The government's attorney jumped to his feet. "Objection, this goes beyond the scope of this case." "On the contrary," Eliza countered. "It goes directly to motive. Sergeant Lawson discovered these discrepancies. He documented them in a video statement the night before his alleged death." The courtroom erupted. Judge Harmon banged her gavel repeatedly. "Approach the bench, both of you," she ordered. As the attorneys conferred with the judge, Rebecca noticed commotion at the back of the courtroom. 2 men in suits had entered, speaking urgently to the court officers. One showed identification that caused the officers' eyes to widen. "Judge," Harmon called the court back to order. "In light of new evidence, this court will take a 30-minute recess. Colonel Reeves, you are instructed not to leave the building." The colonel's face had gone pale. As he stepped down from the witness stand, his gaze locked with Rebecca's. There was something there. Not remorse, but calculation. He reached inside his jacket. "Gun!" someone shouted. Chaos erupted. People dove for cover. Court officers drew their weapons. Rebecca dropped to the floor, heart pounding. When she raised her head moments later, Colonel Reeves was being restrained, a small pistol confiscated from his hand. "Order!" Judge Harmon shouted over the chaos. "I want this courtroom cleared except for essential personnel." As security began ushering people out, the doors at the back of the courtroom swung open. And there he was, Michael, alive. Impossibly, undeniably alive. The world stopped. "I object to these proceedings," he said. "I am not dead. I was made to disappear." Rebecca stood frozen as Michael crossed the courtroom toward her. 2 years of grief, anger, and loneliness crystallized into a single, overwhelming moment of disbelief. "Beck," he said softly, using the nickname only he ever used. "I'm so sorry." Her hand moved of its own accord, slapping him hard across the face. The crack echoed in the near-empty courtroom. "You let me think you were dead," she whispered, voice breaking. "You let Emma cry herself to sleep for months." "I didn't have a choice," Michael said, absorbing her anger without defense. "They gave me an ultimatum. Disappear, or watch you and Emma disappear instead." Judge Harmon cleared her throat. "Mr. Lawson, while I appreciate the dramatic entrance, this is still my courtroom. I need an explanation, and I need it now." Michael nodded, turning to face the judge. "Your Honor, I apologize for the disruption. I'm here because this has gone far enough. People are dying to protect a scheme that has stolen millions meant for Ukrainian defense." The 2 suited men who had entered earlier approached, badges extended. "FBI," one announced. "We need to secure this courtroom. What Mr. Lawson is about to disclose relates to an ongoing federal investigation." With the room secured, and only the judge, attorneys, FBI agents, Rebecca and Michael remaining, the truth began to unfold. The SPA-TC program was created to coordinate specialized training and equipment transfers to Ukrainian forces after the Russian invasion, Michael explained. Billions in aid flowing through with minimal oversight, the perfect environment for corruption. He pulled out a USB drive. "My team discovered weapons shipments being diverted, sold on the black market with the proceeds laundered through various shell companies. When we investigated, we found the operation reached high into both military command and defense contractors. And they silenced you by declaring you KIA, Judge Harmon concluded. Not just me, Michael continued. At least 7 soldiers across, different units all listed as killed in action but actually forced into hiding or eliminated permanently if they refused. The families, Rebecca said suddenly, understanding dawning. They collect death benefits thinking their loved ones died heroes while the corrupt officials keep their secrets. And when families like you ask too many questions, Michael added, looking at Rebecca with pain in his eyes, they get stonewalled. The perfect crime, stealing millions while appearing to honor fallen soldiers. The FBI agent stepped forward. We've been building this case for months. Yesterday, we arrested 3 defense contractors and 4 military officers involved in the scheme. Colonel Reeves was the last major player. That's why he tried to pull a gun, Eliza realized. He knew it was over. Rebecca struggled to process it all. But why come back now? Why not contact me secretly? Let me know you were alive. Michael's expression darkened. I tried. The man who approached you in the garage, Martinez, was helping me gather evidence from inside. When he reached out to you, they discovered his involvement. He paused. They found his body yesterday. That's when I knew I couldn't stay hidden any longer, even if it meant putting myself at risk. Judge Harmon turned to the FBI agents. I assume you'll need Mr. Lawson's testimony for your case. Yes, Your Honor. And Mrs. Lawson's lawsuit has actually helped us identify additional co-conspirators we might have missed. Rebecca felt dizzy with the implications. So what happens now? The criminal case will proceed, one agent explained. As for your wrongful death suit, he glanced at Michael. That's obviously moot, but there may be grounds for other civil actions against the government for the deception and emotional distress. I don't care about the lawsuit anymore, Rebecca said, her eyes fixed on Michael. 2 years of grief didn't disappear in an instant. Neither did the anger, the sense of betrayal, but beneath it all, a spark of their old connection remained. "I just want to take my husband home. Emma needs to know her father is alive." Hours later, they stood on the porch of what had once been their shared home. Michael hesitated before, the door suddenly uncertain. "She might not remember me," he said quietly. "She was only 5 when I left." Rebecca's anger had settled into a dull ache. "She remembers. She asks about you every day." The door opened before they could ring the bell. John, the neighbor, stood there wide-eyed. "My God," she whispered. "It's true. The news is saying." "But I couldn't believe." "Is Emma here?" Rebecca asked. John nodded mutely, stepping aside. They found Emma in the living room, surrounded by crayons and paper. She looked up as they entered, her eyes passing over Michael before returning with sudden recognition. "Daddy?" she whispered, the crayon falling from her hand. Michael knelt down, tears streaming freely now. "Hi, Ember." She approached cautiously, as if he might disappear if she moved too quickly. Her small hand reached out to touch his face, verifying he was real. "They said you died in the war." "I know, sweetheart, I'm so sorry, but I'm back now." "For real? Forever?" "Forever," he promised. Emma threw her arms around his neck, and something in Rebecca's heart both broke and mended simultaneously. The road ahead would be complicated. Explanations to family and friends, therapy for all of them, rebuilding trust that had been shattered. Michael would have to testify against his former commanders, possibly placing himself at risk again. But they were together. The truth, however painful, was finally in the open. Later that night, after Emma had fallen asleep, insisting Michael read her 3 bedtime stories to make up for lost time, Rebecca and Michael sat on the porch swing, a careful distance between them. 27 people have been arrested so far, Michael said, checking the news on his phone. "The scheme goes deeper than even I realized. Over 140 million diverted from Ukrainian aid." "While families grieved for men who weren't actually dead," Rebecca added. "Some were. Not everyone got the option I did." Michael stared into the darkness. "Martinez, Thompson, Jimenez, they were killed for real when they wouldn't cooperate. I should have done more to protect them." Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. "Why did you agree? To disappear?" "They showed me surveillance photos of you and Emma. At her school, at the park, in the grocery store. Said they could make you both disappear as easily as they could me." His voice hardened. "I agreed on one condition, that I could keep tabs on you, make sure you were safe. They allowed it thinking it would ensure my compliance. But you were gathering evidence against them the whole time." Michael nodded. "With Martinez's help. We documented everything. The diverted shipments, the money trails, the fake death certificates. We were almost ready when you filed your lawsuit." Which forced their hand, Rebecca realized. They were afraid of what might come out in discovery. When Reeves was subpoenaed, they panicked. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of lost time between them. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet," Rebecca finally said, "for not finding some way to let me know." "I know." Michael's voice was rough with emotion. "I don't expect forgiveness, just a chance to try to make things right." Rebecca looked at the man she had grieved, the man she had loved, the man who had sacrificed everything to protect them, even allowing her to believe he was dead for 2 long years. "Did you ever consider," she asked softly, "that I might have chosen danger with you over safety without you?" Michael met her gaze, the question striking him like a physical blow. Every single day. Inside the house, the life they had lost and might yet rebuild waited. Outside, across America, other families of supposedly fallen soldiers would soon learn the devastating truth that their government had falsified deaths to cover corruption, trading on the sacred trust of military service for profit. The scandal would rock the nation's conscience, exposing how easily heroes could be erased and grief exploited by those sworn to serve. But in this moment, on this porch, there was only a husband and wife navigating the strange territory between death and resurrection, between betrayal and protection, between the lies that had separated them and the truth that had brought them back together.